TalkSeagulls. We are here to talk about Graham Potter. Isn't that a lot of fun on a random Tuesday evening? Thank you all for coming. Of course, I'm just going to get Owen in now. Um, you should be able to hear something and see something. Hopefully, me, Tom. But let me know in the comments if you can see me. As I say, thank you for joining as always. Owen, I'm going to invite you in immediately, my friend. I have a bit of a problem with my laptop right now, so hence why we're a little bit late. Just bear with me while I send you the invite. How are we all doing, ladies and gentlemen? How are we all doing? Right, Owen, you should be in now, my friend. How are you, man? You good?
Life is great as a Brighton fan, isn't it?
Life is fantastic.
What an amazing time. I'm all
Exactly
good, thank you. How are you?
the question that I thought would be going on, mate. 100%, never in doubt. Yeah, Kieran McKenna obviously is a big thing, but it's been a bit messy, really. I was quite surprised by how quiet today was. I've got to be honest. I expected a little bit, hence why I wanted to do a stream. But what about you?
It is very, very quiet. Too quiet. It
Hmm.
feels like something's coming, you know?
Do you think
The calm
you're on
before
the
the storm.
fence? You're on that fence of it's something's happening rather than it's looking bleak.
Well, my thinking is I would hope and assume we knew about McKenna potentially staying at Ipswich before the Ornstein bomb came out.
Hmm.
So I'm
Hmm.
hoping in the past 24 or so hours we have been contacting the backups, the replacements,
Graham,
which let's see. Um, I'm
we're
not
gonna
quite
get into that.
convinced. Yeah,
I am gonna be testing your ability to answer some of these questions. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be putting you under pressure. But first and foremost, mate. Obviously it's the end of the season. We said that. I think we did it at the beginning of doing all these playbacks and streams and stuff. My light is really, really temperamental, by the way. This is going to happen a lot. But we said this at the beginning. This summer was going to be massive, and that was always our biggest worry of stability, and we needed stability. Now, you know, we've lost obviously De Zerbi. A lot of people aren't agreeing with the decision, wrongly or rightfully. I'm on the fence of I don't agree with it either. But that stability that we wanted is instantly gone. Right, the only building on has already gone. So, what do you make of just sort of the whole situation? Do you make of it as like a maybe an early mistake, or is it one that maybe the club has more control of than we maybe think?
I think. Oh, yeah, you are putting me under the spot already.
Well, it's a big
Yeah,
moment, you know. It's a big moment. We've said some big claims. We've said about Europe. We've said about getting ourselves back there immediately. We've said about spending in the summer, and that was our biggest concerns. Whereas now we're talking about managers, backroom staff, even squad spirit, fan backing. There's a lot of things riding on the next few decisions.
yeah. I'll start it with. I think it's too early to say it's a mistake for getting rid of De Zerbi because we don't know who's coming in yet. We could get someone big.
Hmm.
Maybe there's a name that we haven't thought of, or maybe there's a name in the past that we thought, oh, maybe we probably couldn't get this person because the Premier League is an attractive job for any manager in the world. And if you're not going to a Big Six club, there's not many more attractive jobs than Brighton, I don't think. Especially if you're
Yeah.
looking to get into a Big Six job. We've already got sort of past experience of letting managers go to Big Six clubs. We aren't going to stand in their way, rightly or
Hmm.
wrongly, for that. But it's too early to make a mistake to say it's a mistake about that. It is concerning though that we have let him go and we haven't got a new manager yet.
Yeah, that's the bit that I wanted to get to was the fact that, maybe it's a little bit early to say we wanted a manager already. Because realistically, it's not even been 2 weeks yet. It's only been the weekend of, and it's all gone past really, really quickly. But a portion of me wanted this to be wrapped up, or at least reaching some sort of closure by now. And I think that's probably where my deeper reservations are. Is it's McKenna was our man. Let's face it. If we believe the media, McKenna was the man, or was he? Do you believe that McKenna was the man?
Yeah, he was. I say that with a lot of confidence that he was the guy. There was way too much noise and substantiated noise as well. Not,
Mm,
these came from reliable sources that you trust what they say and where
yeah,
they're getting their information from. The people who are saying like we probably didn't go for him, I do think it's just coming from a place of like trying to bargain our way that we got rejected by an Ipswich manager, which in and of itself is a terrible look for the club.
It's a
If we
terrible
can't get
look,
a
but in
manager,
fairness, isn't he? If again the reports are true, but I thought he's like now one of the top paid managers in the league. I think his contract's ridiculous, is what I've read. I think that was Jacob Steinberg, that put that out, saying that he sort of rejected Chelsea and us. Apparently, his payout's a bit mad.
yeah, I saw that, but then I don't know if that makes it look better for us, because then you could say, why haven't we done that for our previous managers or previous
Mm,
players? Maybe we haven't, it hasn't got out, but
mm,
it does
yeah,
raise some questions which probably won't get answered. But I do understand people's concerns about ambition. I just think we have to
mm,
wait and see how it all plays out,
yeah.
because
What's the,
there
what's
will
the,
be someone else that comes in.
Yeah, no, of course there will. I mean, what was your take on initial sort of McKenna's news? Because it was a bit surprising for me. I don't know about the chat, but I don't know about everyone else. But when I saw it, I was quite confident that if we want him, we get him. If we want him, we'll get him. And credit to him in a way of staying at Ipswich and providing that sort of proof that people will stay and manage the clubs that they want to manage. There is a little bit of loyalty left, but I don't know. There was a bit of me that thought he's our man. He's got to be. It's got to be getting over the line. And the news when it came out that he's going to go. I don't know about you, but I thought that was just a massive shock.
Yeah, I was worried about Chelsea when that news started popping up.
Yeah.
I
See, I
thought,
thought Chelsea were almost trying to fake shot us a little bit. I did have a feeling that they were just trying to escalate the Manchester United noise, try and get it moving a little bit quicker. I don't know. Listen, I'm not involved too much, but yeah, the McKenna thing is disappointing, of course. But I think what's more not so much disappointing, but more maybe a little bit concerning for fans is who's next, and I guess that's what everyone's really here for. Graham Potter. And I just want to get your initial reaction to Graham Potter, even being mentioned for the job, not necessarily getting it, but even being mentioned for the job. I mean, what was the initial taking of that alone?
so I think the first reaction is, oh God, no, like don't let this happen. But then you sit on it for a couple minutes and you think, who else is there?
Yeah.
That's like a definitive upgrade on Potter, because I believe this manager market is pretty poor right now. A
Mm.
lot of the better managers have already gone. I think Company would have been a nice fit here.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a shame that Bayern, I'm quite surprised that Bayern did that,
yeah, I think
going
that
for
came
it.
as a surprise to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I mean, Arne Slot would have been an absolute dream.
Mm.
I won't stop banging on about that man. He's superb.
Yeah. You like him, don't you?
And yeah, I mean, maybe you can get a big name like Poch or Ten Hag if they go, but that's not really a Brighton appointment, is it?
No. No. I mean, Poch would be great, but again, he's going to be on an astronomical wage. I think, if I'm right in saying his wage at his salary, should I say, at Chelsea was around 10 million, which I can't see us getting anywhere near that. Especially, I mean, if you look at it as a job perspective, the career choice that Poch has made has been disastrous for himself. I mean, he's gone from such a great upcoming manager from Southampton, then going on to Tottenham, doing pretty well. Maybe would have wanted to win something, but didn't. Still did a good job to some degree, got him to a Champions League final. Um, and then went to PSG and almost just, took the money, easy route, didn't really set the world alight too much with what he had at his disposal. And then went to Chelsea from PSG. And I think that those are just two really poor career choices. So perhaps there's a case there to say Brighton's a great way to rebuild that career choice path, but I think that one's going to be a little bit too far gone.
Yeah, what I say is that PSG job was a difficult job. That dressing room was
Oh yeah,
not ideal at
egos.
all.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then as for
100%.
Chelsea, I think it's quite widely known in football that Chelsea's a bit of a mess, and it's going to take time for them to become good again. Even if their owners don't believe that,
Mm,
you can't win anything with a team full of 20-year-olds. You need some experience. You need patience for that project to grow.
mm,
So yeah, it could be a good job for him here. The problem is there's two big red flags for him. One, he left Chelsea because he wanted control on transfers.
yeah.
It sounds very De Zerbi. The
Hmm.
second, he has a very bad record of injuries because of his training methods. So the Chelsea briefs are saying anyway.
Yeah.
And we've just gone through that. The last thing we want is that again.
Yeah.
So I'd
I
say that
mean,
probably rules him out.
yeah, on that though, about Poch and De Zerbi sort of similarities. I think I said this to Matisse, the Chelsea fan, in that, when they said they wanted De Zerbi, he's only going to do what Poch does and probably a little bit more in terms of he won't maybe be as vocal. Sorry, but De Zerbi will be more vocal than him. But he's definitely going to be pushing, and that's one thing that they didn't like. I don't know about you if this is a thing that's becoming a bit of a theme, particularly around all the injuries and stuff. But where managers are being quite vocal about fixture congestion, about injuries, about transfers, mostly. Maresca did, I think, the same. If I'm right in saying, I could be wrong in that, but the transfers pushing always seems to happen from a manager. Who's right in that situation? Is it board in saying, no, we do it our way? Or is it manager not always right in terms of who we bring in, but in terms of we need more players, I get to see them on a daily basis?
I'd lean towards the board, I think, because a manager's not going to care about what a club's financially looks like in 5 years' time, because they're gone. If these signings don't work out, no problem, they'll get another job. Whereas the
Yeah.
board are left to deal with the consequences of that. So I'd lean towards the board because a manager's going to have limited knowledge of how transfers work and
Yeah.
potentially even who the club are going for. Because why would you brief a manager on 300 players you're scouting?
Yeah.
You'd probably give them like a 10-man shortlist and maybe they have an input on that. I mean, it shows ambition from managers that they want more. I think that's a good thing, but it also has to be controlled, that you respect the authority, that you're the manager, you're not the director of football, you're not the sporting director, you're not the owner. This isn't your money you're putting in. I think there just has to be a healthy conversation for them to like work together.
Yeah, agree. And I read a few of these shouts here. Amorim is more attainable than Poch. Do you agree with that? Amorim, I think, wanted control as well, if I'm right in saying.
If you wanted control, then it's probably a non-starter.
I could be wrong, but I think he wanted control at West Ham and Liverpool when he went for them interviews, if you'll remember. Xavi, obviously, one of the big names being mentioned. Could you realistically see a Xavi or anyone of that sort of caliber, name-wise, coming here?
Well, I mean, there's been contact with Barcelona because of Fati. So is it
Yeah, fair.
maybe there's a chance if Fati has nice things to say about us? I
Mm.
mean, it's a long shot, let's be honest.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult because as you say, the manager market isn't exactly flowing right now. It's not like we've got a bunch of people. I mean, what's your take on someone like a Henrik Rydstrom? Not particularly him, but that nature of manager where no one actually really knows much about him. He is an unknown, but he's very crazy. He's got a big sort of ethos in how he wants to play the game. Would you be happy on taking a punt like that on someone that is relatively unproven, which everyone's doing nowadays anyway, rather than getting like a Graham Potter in who, of course, knows the squad and club?
Yeah, well, Potter from a PR and optics angle is a horrible appointment,
Yeah.
especially when I think there was publicly said that the club see De Zerbi as an upgrade. So to then go back, it's a tricky one to try and justify to the fans because there's understandably going to be people who are very annoyed.
The thing for me is it ruins the whole sort of confidence of contingency planning. Because contingency planning to me means continuous improvement. It means getting in the next best every single time and always looking forwards. And even if something doesn't work out, there's a contingency plan. Contingency planning to me is not going backwards. And no matter the quality of the manager and the sort of lack of respect that maybe was shown both parties, from us and from him, I can't see that being possibly a contingency plan to me.
I'll push back on that slightly and say is part of contingency planning because Potter wasn't sacked here. You know, he did a good job by the end. He left because he had a better offer. So would getting him back, like, go towards the contingency planning of we don't care about the past, so to speak. We want the best person available.
In fairness, yeah, but then also you wouldn't say that he's a downgrade on someone we just got rid of. Well, haven't got rid of, but almost got rid of. That's where that sort of falls apart. Because if we didn't come out, well, not the club have directly come out and said it, but I mean, it's in an Athletic article. It seems quite out there that everyone was very prepared to say that he was an upgrade. Sorry, De Zerbi was an upgrade on Potter. So to me, that says that's not contingency planning. To me, that just says that's just going back round in circles.
Yeah, I get that. I'm not trying to like defend Potter. I'm just playing devil's advocate a bit here.
Mm.
What I would say is De Zerbi wasn't the greatest fit personality-wise. I don't think with the board. That's the sort of impression I got. You know, Brighton managers going out in the press and saying, criticizing some things, making some things that should be private
Yeah,
public.
it was very Gus Poyet, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It gave me serious Gus Poyet vibes. And we all saw how that ended. The only good thing is for us is that De Zerbi hasn't said anything outrageous, and when you actually listen to what he says, he's not really said anything bad. He's just sort of gone over things that maybe don't need to keep being repeated. I don't think he said anything directly bad. He's not attacked anybody in the time that he was here. But I think the way that he went was more admirable, probably, than someone like a Gus, who a lot of people didn't like for a good portion of time, by the way. I know revisionism now says everyone loved Gus, but that really wasn't the case for the first 5 years, I'd say.
I mean, what I say about De Zerbi is, was he wrong? Really? Did we need more players? I think most people would say yes. Should we
And
have got
and
more
the
players?
biggest thing as well was about him losing his big players as well. It wasn't so much just about signings; it was about losing players and losing the two biggest players without the right sort of replacements, and then going into such a big season.
For sure, but then he also has to take ownership of the Hood flopping, and then
That's
Fatty
fair.
not doing well. Igor being essentially a squad player for a starter level money. Like you can't get you can't say three players and get them all wrong. Maybe Igor maybe is a question mark, but come on,
Yeah,
are you happy about
yeah.
that signing? Because I'm not.
Igor. Do you know what? I wouldn't say I'm as outrageously against him as you are. I think he's a decently good player, and he's done a good job whenever he's sort of been called upon. He's not the dynamic. He's not a Levi Colwill. He's not a Purposeless Opinion. He's not a Valentin Barco, but he does a decent job. So I'm not anti Igor by any stretch, but I do agree with you in terms of those three players, as opposed to what we believe to be the three players that the club brought in that same window, which was Bart Verbruggen, Carlos Baleba, and Joao Pedro. The quality difference in the three of them to the other three is pretty unrivaled.
Don't forget Cole Palmer slash Kudus as well. We wanted
Yeah,
them from the club
Cold
perspective,
Palmer.
you know.
He's a gutting one, Palmer particularly. Kudus has been fantastic for West Ham. I'm not going to try to the name because I don't even know anything about him, to be honest. People are going to know everyone in the chat is going to probably know more about some of these manager names than me because I don't really watch other managers or take in who's managing who. I sort of just read up on them when I need to. But Owen, your thoughts on Emmanuel? Yeah, him from TAD BHFC.
Oh God, I don't even recognise the name. Let me scroll up and see if I recognise his head.
I'll go. I can't even say. I'm really sorry. I can't say his name.
The Porto manager. Are you on about him?
Yeah, so one.
Not for me. His football isn't the best in terms of style. It gets results, but not for me. You asked about Rydstrom. I forgot to answer that. I completely skipped
Yeah,
over
go
that.
on.
Again, not for me. It's entertaining, but
He's a bit chaotic, isn't he? If I
it
read
is
rightly.
chaotic, and you'd have to replace some fan favourites. I don't think Lewis Dunk could play in that team personally.
Mm,
You need like
yeah,
11 athletes almost, and he's not
yeah,
he's not quick enough. I'm seeing
yeah,
Ilza shouts from Maxi. He absolutely loves him. I haven't actually watched him
yeah.
yet.
Do you know who this Slobodan Drapic is? He's sort of appeared out of nowhere.
Yeah, there was
Um,
uh, I think it's a BILD, the German newspaper. They ran an
okay,
article about him the other day. I didn't repost it because it read as
right.
guesswork almost.
Yeah,
So I
okay,
thought
fair
it was a
enough.
bit of a waste of time. Interesting that he's on the odds now and not when the article dropped. But um,
Yeah, yeah, it certainly is. There's a
I
lot of
haven't watched.
shouts in here. Keep the shouts coming in, by the way, chat, and also make sure you join. If you press join, don't worry, it's not going to charge you. It just is a follow for us, so it does mean a lot if you do follow. That would be great. But yeah, I get some more shouts in there. I'm still just a bit. I don't know about you, Owen, but it's the first time we've been in this sort of darkness, isn't it? We've not quite known what's going to happen next. We haven't had that situation anytime recently, and it's the first time that we've and maybe been pegged back to third, fourth choice of who we would realistically like to have in.
This is where the contingency planning comes in. Because if we get the appointment right, we look like geniuses. That we've had
Yeah.
like 5 good managers lined up. But if they flop, you're going, where was the succession planning? Is there not
Mm.
5 good managers in Europe for us?
What
So,
do you think?
oh, I want to wait and to see who we get, because
Fence
some
sitter.
candidates I'd like, some I wouldn't.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, in terms of confidence wise, I mean, I asked Maz this on Seagull Social earlier. 10 being sort of, we'll be all right, and 1 being a bit shaky. Where do you sit at the minute? I mean, it's it's difficult, right? Because we're not used to this. We've maybe become a little bit arrogant. We've become a little bit in our own little bubble at Brighton, haven't we? Where everything sort of flows in the last few years. Now it's what happens next. So where are you sat on there?
There's two answers I could give here, because there's a thing of everything that's known publicly, and there's another one. The publicly one, it's probably like a 6, a 7. It's a little bit concerning, but you still have a lot of faith in the board. They've
Yeah,
got so much right over the years and very,
of
very
course.
little wrong, that you have to trust them. And whoever we get, they likely will be a good manager. They likely will be a good coach. And this is a pretty good group of players that will be added upon this summer,
Hmm.
hopefully. Um,
Yeah.
I think we'll be fine. And as for like, 'cause it's been like 2 weeks, to be completely honest, it doesn't really matter when the manager comes in. Like, he could come in next month and it doesn't really matter, as long as he's here before pre-season starts.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, pre-season's the big one, isn't it? Obviously, got the Euros in between then. Ideally, you'd want it before that. We're going to Japan, don't we, in July? So it's quite a busy summer, really. I mean, we've got a lot of players out in the Euros, so realistically, no one's going to really meet up or see anyone in between that point. I think the biggest part is the whole Graham Potter saga. We need to touch on this more because we have clickbaited everybody into thinking Potter's joining us. Um, you know, the sole focus on the fans' point of views is I just don't see how that gets repaired. I don't know what would he have to do, so to speak, to make that better? How does he win fans back over? Because we went over this, didn't we, with Glenn Murray when he first went to Palace, came back. Everyone wanted him to be top scorer, got us promoted, top scorer in the Premier League, scored another 50 goals on top of the 50 he scored before. Everyone walked away pretty happy in the end. What would Potter have to do to replicate or to overcome the fan base?
I think the first thing is not running around the obvious questions. Like, you have to answer difficult questions and say, yeah, I went to Chelsea. Maybe he says it's a mistake, maybe he doesn't, maybe he regrets it, maybe he doesn't. But he says, like, I'm back here now, I want to do a good job. Acknowledge that the fans might not be happy, because I think if you try and skirt around it, it just doesn't help anyone. And then the second thing is just win games. Winning
Mm.
cures everything in football.
Yeah, it does. Winning cures, but then remember, for me, it's hard to forget the unbelievable times we've had with De Zerbi, for example, because De Zerbi was scoring a lot of goals in that 2023-24 season. Sorry, 22-23 season. A lot of goals, a lot of improvements. Solly March, Kara Mitoma, to name a couple, um, and also firing us to Europe top 6 for the first time in our history. That's the level the De Zerbi set, right? For me, Potter's got to somehow top that again. And whether that's getting into Europe and then going further in it, whether that's getting into the FA Cup, winning it, getting to the final, it has to be somewhere bigger than what we've seen before, because otherwise we'll just say we'll have a history lesson.
Yeah. I can't even try and disagree with that. You're right. We do need to. The standards need to be really high. What I
Mm.
will say is he's been out the game for what, 18 months, give or take.
Yeah, good period of time.
He could have. I mean, he could and should have like a different tactical idea to what he had before. You think the amount of time he's surely been studying a lot of football, and probably like visiting different places, and sort of gaining new ideas, learning how to manage players better, because there were times that it wasn't the best here, as shown
Mm.
by De Zerbi. Like Solly March, I think it was pretty obvious he needed a manager who would put his arm around him and give him the confidence to make mistakes, or try things that might not work. Whereas with Potter, everyone looked a little bit scared to take a risk.
But Solly was the biggest one, wasn't he? Solly was the one that really surprised me. I loved Solly in the Championship. Thought the Premier League was just a step too far for him. Confidence was a massive, massive, massive problem with Solly, wasn't it? I mean, he was played left back, a left wing back. under Potter, as was pretty much everybody else as an attacking forward. I think he saw Mitoma as a left wing back as well, if I'm right in saying. Played Zakiri there, who was a centre forward. The biggest one being Gyökeres, sort of played nowhere near where he should have been and let go of. Not that it was a massive surprise at the time, but there's definitely a case for it. Do you feel like there could be a problem where if again, this is all if that happens again, someone like a Mitoma, someone like a Solly March suffers for it again?
I mean, if we're having this conversation, the club would be having that conversation if he comes back, and you'd hope he'd be asked about it. Like, what did you think when you was here? Should you have done differently? Especially looking at what Roberto did. Is there anything he did that you think you should have done here? And them sort of answers, because I think those questions would have to be asked about Potter, like privately, because if he says like, oh no, I thought I did a good job and wouldn't have changed anything, I'm going, okay, well, thank you for coming, Graham, but we're going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's really where it is. Just to name a couple of the others that we went over, wasn't it? Ferrioli was one of them. Rumors that he got interviewed. Obviously gone to Ajax now. Vincent Kompany, and the obvious Kieran McKenna. Those two names, do you believe them to be the next favourites actually being the ones we wanted, or do you think they were just names thrown into the hat?
Ferrioli and Kompany.
Yeah.
I could see Kompany having a good level of truth towards it, because he does play similar football in terms of style, similar principles. Wouldn't have been too difficult to get out of Burnley.
It was interesting, actually, the Kompany thing, just while we're on it. Do you remember when we first got linked to him and everyone was sort of like, don't want him, don't want him, don't want him, don't want him. And now he's at Bayern. Like, if this happened, right, I'm going to just start a dialogue here. If this happened 5-10 years ago, everyone would be going mad if someone that just got relegated with Burnley went to Bayern. But because now it seems to be this trend, and you can come at me if you don't think it's a trend, where everyone's going for these young managers, 40 minus and below, right? 38-year-olds, 36-year-old, Vincent Kompany, Farioli's, Declan McKenna's. What happens? Like, in our perspective here, I mean, do we want to just be following a trend, or is this a genuine strategy?
Yeah, I think it's more than a trend. I think it's clubs looking at managers like players, where it's not necessarily what have you done, it's what do we think you can do here. So you see like players who maybe look better in one system and terrible in another. As an example, say Calvin Phillips, amazing at Leeds, not good at City, terrible at West Ham, or Scamacca at West Ham, just didn't suit him. I think clubs are starting to look at managers a little bit like that, that you play this style of football and okay, you didn't have a team to play that style, but we can give you the players, so we think the results will follow. Your camera's really fuzzy for me. I don't know if anyone else
It's all
is
right.
having
It's just Wi-Fi issues. Don't worry about it. But yeah, no, I fully get that. I just don't know. It's that point, isn't it, where all these names can get thrown in. Do you feel like we've reached the point where we are going to have to just wait and see? There probably will be another name thrown out there. Or do you just think it is going to be Potter? It could just be all true, and Potter actually could be the next man in line.
Yeah. I think you will see more noise. Because I don't want to be harsh, but some of these names do feel a little bit like guesswork. They do feel a little bit lazy, a little bit,
The bookies have looked lazy this time. They have looked lazy. The
yeah.
bookies have got most of it wrong. I don't feel like much of it's been even close to accurate, let alone, actually happening. McKenna was the obvious, but the bookies, I mean, Russell Martin's still, I think, second or third.
Liam Rosenior as well. There's no chance we
Senior.
hire a manager
Could you
who's been sacked
imagine?
from
Look,
Hull.
come on. I love Liam Rosenior for the guy, but that would be a season ticket questioner.
That would be
He
worse
didn't
than
exactly
nothing.
set the world alight at Hull, did he? Let's put it that way.
I mean, he's going to be a good manager, but yeah, this is way too early for him. I mean, if you can't succeed at Hull, you're not ready for a Brighton style of job. With all due respect to him, lovely guy and everything, but I don't see that one having anything in it. Again, the Potter odds being really, really low, like from quite early on, it does feel a little bit guessworky to me.
Deja vu. That's what it feels like. It feels like I've gone back to 2019 and I'm going on the Sky Bet
Oh,
app and seeing Graham Potter and thinking, "Who's that guy?" for a start, and looking him
yeah.
up, finding out he's I thought he was Swedish. I've got to be honest. But yeah, when that was going on, that was actually pretty bang on. To be fair to the bookies, they got that when I think Houghton was still in charge, from what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think he came out quite early as the main candidate with Potter. And then with De Zerbi, you had a bunch of names. He was
De Zerbi
shooting
was
up and down.
crazy. De Zerbi was crazy because I think Postecoglou was up there. But I don't know about you, but under De Zerbi, when that sort of whole thing went down, we were all really scared, but we sort of had a little bit more, I don't know, confidence in what happens next. We were a little bit more relaxed, maybe. I don't know about you. I felt a little bit more relaxed maybe than I am now. And now I'm looking at what's going around. It's a little bit more edgy for me.
Yeah, I can't rewrite history. I thought De Zerbi was going to flop
Yeah, you did actually. I remember that.
because I was watching Shakhtar and there was, all the passing, the tiki-taka, the double pivots and sort of baiting press. I thought, this can't work in the Prem. Surely not with these players. And he got us top six. So, what do I know?
Yeah. No, well, that goes to prove, right? All these Chelsea fans that come on and say, "Oh, he's just building on Potter's work. It's Potter's foundations." To some extent, it's true, but I mean, he's still completely changed the way we played and improved so many players. Which for me keeps bringing me around to the same question of: do you still not think it's a mistake in just keeping him for another year? Because I don't know if you saw the thing earlier about. I want to say it was on the Athletic. I could be wrong. I think it was that Brightonian Pursuit of Truth account. I said this on Seagull's social as well. It's a spoiler there. He said João Pedro's reaction when De Zerbi spoke to him after he was taken off in the 88th minute away to Bournemouth on the April the 28th suggested he was less than impressed, and De Zerbi replaced Marco Mani, a 19-year-old striker making his Premier League first start at half time. One person who heard the shouting through Brighton's dressing room at full time described it as incredible. I don't know if that's just one of them things where someone's trying to put a little bit of PR out there saying it was the right thing for De Zerbi go in and whatever, it could be one of them. But what do you think of that?
Pedro didn't do a good bye post, did he?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
He
I
was
did
one of the
notice
few
that.
that didn't. Yeah. Whether
Yeah.
that means anything or not, I mean, it probably doesn't because players would say their goodbyes in private as well as you don't need an Instagram post to say how much you'd
But
love a
people have been
manager.
shouting at people in the tunnel and in the dressing rooms for absolutely years, and that will continue to happen in football forever. I still struggle to imagine that's a genuine reason as to why De Zerbi was even being close to being edged out, or there was a bad apple in camp, or and there was any fallout. So I struggle to believe that. I don't know about you.
I noticed the last 5 or so games, there was a lot of players snapping at each other. Pascal especially, I really noticed him really snapping at players if they made a mistake or something. I just
Do you think they gave up at the end, players?
I think they just realised that the manager probably doesn't want to be here in an ideal world
Hmm.
because he made it quite clear he would leave almost. Like he didn't shut the door on staying until it was pretty apparent that he didn't have a choice, that Bayern weren't going to come in for him and Barca weren't going to come in for him. It always felt like he wanted to leave that door open. I do
Hmm.
think that noise got inside the dressing room because the performances they did like tail off and the season did just fade out.
Well, I mean, we finished below Palace, didn't we? As we've been reminded so many times, and it didn't really feel like anyone was that fussed, apart from Palace fans, to be honest. But more importantly, it didn't seem like the players were. And look, it's no way to judge anything, is it? Um, but it did feel like a bit of a strange end to the season. That Manchester United game, especially. First half looked great, and I was saying, "Where's all this gone for so long?" Second half, it just looked like we gave up. And I don't want to say that because I don't know that, but it did.
Yeah, the impression I got was we were going through the motions that there's 45 minutes left. Let's just
Mm,
see this out. Let's go on our holidays and
mm,
we'll come back next year when we got healthy. It didn't sit right with me that performance, the second half one. I
yeah.
don't know what happened in the dressing room, you know, because it was like two different games, the first half and the second half. That's how it felt anyway.
Yeah. Do you think that the players turned on De Zerbi at all? Do you think that's
No,
hearsay?
no, I couldn't see a world where the dressing room turned on De Zerbi. I think
Mm.
they loved that guy. I think there's probably frustration maybe towards him, and maybe the way he acted, like publicly. But yeah, I can't see him turning against him personally. I mean, you're in a better position than me to answer that.
Yeah, I'm just getting thoughts really. That's sort of what I'm doing it for. I have a horrible feeling we'll hear some Potter-related news. Do you reckon we'll approach him? Do you reckon that'll happen? Do you reckon even for a moment? For me, I just don't see it. I still don't see it even coming to fruition. Don't get me wrong. I feel like if there's nothing else, if we have tried everything, maybe we go for him. But this is assuming that Potter even wants the job back, by the way, because this is coming from the guy that didn't even want us to shoot when he was here. I don't know if he's going to be able to handle it. I really don't.
If it's not here, then where? Maybe the England job, but like,
I don't know how he handles that either.
Yeah,
he's not got the bottle for it for me.
As for the approach thing, publicly, I can't see it. I think if there is an approach, we'd do everything possible to keep it quiet until we had an indication that he would join. Because if we approached him publicly and he rejected it, there's almost no coming back from that. Like, that would be so embarrassing from the board's perspective.
Yeah. To be fair, Potter at United wouldn't actually be that bad. That's my unpopular opinion. Probably because I think he'll be able to clear out their deadwood quite well and progress them. But I don't think he's going to win them anything. But he'll lay a foundation. Yeah, he'll do foundation work there. But I think that's what Potter is. I think he's a foundation man. I do think that. And I think that, as we said at the time back in 2022, De Zerbi was the sort of espresso shots that we needed. So I wouldn't want anything to change. I think if the next manager was to come in, the thing we need to change is our midfield and defence. Midfield was fine under De Zerbi, don't get me wrong, in the first season. Defence was always a bigger problem. That's where it needs to change. Maybe a little bit of stability with goalkeepers. But other than that, I was relatively happy with the style of play that we had going. And it's hard to know what I'd necessarily build on. I mean, I don't know about you, Owen. What would you want to? Because this is how I'll break it down for you. In the last couple of years, it looks like we've almost built on what a manager lacked before. So, for example, Chris Hughton did not have a clue how to play out from the back. So Potter started that, but Potter couldn't finish his chances. So then De Zerbi sorted that out. We sort of suffered a little bit for defensive wise. So maybe we need someone to come back in and sort that side out and do both, which maybe we went after Farioli, for example, or a McKenna, for example. But what do you think on that?
Farioli would have stunk.
Yeah, you didn't like him, did you? I just liked him because he looked a bit like him. I've got to be honest with you.
Yeah, I watched a few Nice games when the links came out, and I was like, oh, this isn't for me. This is like a serious downgrade. I don't know if Marshall or Maxi are here. I would like their thoughts on what they think the next manager needs, because I'm sure they'll have some thoughts. They're like the Brighton tacticos.
Yeah, we need some tactico knowledge.
I mean, the out of possession stuff could be a lot better under the new manager. Maybe a bit of a gegenpressing German. I'm seeing, we need to press. Carlos Baleba, you need to unleash him.
Yeah.
Is it crazy to say he's our best midfielder next season?
No, it's not. Because I think when you look at Pascal as being the sort of next best, it's hard to even call him a midfielder, to be honest. Baleba for me is, the way he finished the season last season was very, very impressive. It was clear he was very naive, wasn't it, when he first came in? Maybe a little bit, wanting to try a little bit too much. But I think the more he just learns to do the simple things right, takes on his man as well, he's very good at. He's very quick as well, isn't he? Very strong, good range of passing. He'll be good for us next season. We should build around him to some extent.
Yeah, I've made it fairly clear the players I would look to sell and the players I would keep. And there is a player that I want to go, which opens up a nice space for Baleba, but we'll see how that turns out. As for Baleba
Gilmore
himself,
that you mentioned on the last one,
it might be. We'll see.
I'm not entertaining this. This.
I want dual winners. I can't have a.
No, that's fair, but Gilmore doesn't do much of our position. I give you that. But one thing Gilmore hasn't ever had in his time at Brighton, and one thing I'll always stand by, is he's never actually played in a full midfield for us. He's been very unfortunate in the time when he's come into the team, because I think if he had Caicedo and McAllister with Gross in front of him, I think that we would have seen a much different Billy Gilmore in the way he sort of links up the play, does a bit of the ugly stuff. But I think as well, he does get forward quite well. And I think he would be all right if he had the sort of protection of Caicedo and McAllister next to him.
Fair, but then can you get a better midfielder? That's the question I was asking before.
Yeah, you asked me this before,
yeah.
and of course you can. Yeah, but I think that in the situation we are in as a club, there's more often than not there is going to be someone out there that's better than who we've got at the moment, because that's just being a Brighton fan. But I think Billy Gilmore, could be quite good, but still, I do think we need that someone to hold it together a little bit more, because as you say,
Agreed.
almost
Yeah.
unleash Belabor and let him run and let him do what he needs to do. Let him do.
Cook.
Yeah, let Belabor do what Belabor can do. That's what we need to build around. But before we do it, I just think the manager thing is probably going to be the biggest of them all, because with all due respect to Potter, he didn't probably have that pull that De Zerbi has in the transfer market, in terms of when someone spoke to someone about coming over to Brighton. If it was De Zerbi chatting, most of the players liked it.
For sure. There was a painful amount of players that rejected us under Potter.
Yeah, there you go. Because they knew the sort of football that would come, didn't they? They knew that it would be good football, patient football, but it probably wouldn't end in anything, and that's what we struggled with. Whereas I think if with De Zerbi, it was enjoy yourself. I still look at De Zerbi as just a bit of a football fan, but a very passionate one, and that's probably where the instant sell was, not just for players but for fans as well.
I would be interested to know what the young players think about him, because we spoke about Pedro. I wonder what Belabor thinks, because I think he should have played more this season. I think he should have had more trust, especially when it was very obvious that midfield lacked him. Like that Gross Gilmore pivot, it was okay, but we lost some games really badly because we didn't have a player like Belabor who could assert themselves on the pitch. And maybe it was to protect him, but I don't know. I just don't think he was put in the best position possible. The Roma game would have been very different, as Josh just said.
Yeah, it would have been. I mean, I think the Roma game was unfortunate. It really was. The way it fell, the time it fell, the players we had out. It was always going to be a difficult
messed
one.
it up.
You do. You're on that side of the fence.
I don't know how you justify playing Lamptey over Veltman away at Roma.
That's fair.
I really didn't understand that. Buonanotte I can get because of the defensive work rate, but yeah, that really did not age well.
Yeah, I think it's just a shame. I think we learned a lot from Rome, the club more so, because it was a bit of a wake up call, wasn't it, as to where we are and where we could be. And I don't know about you, but looking at Villa at the moment, it's a bit like that. I'm looking at how closely we were competing. I'd argue actually only the season before the one just gone, we were actually above Villa and looking better than Villa. Financially, we can't compete. Financially, they are leagues and leagues and leagues and leagues above us. But I think that will always be why De Zerbi was so frustrated, is because he'll look back on that and say that's where we could have been if we just didn't sell two of our best players and maybe just replaced at least one of them.
Who was Aston Villa's main attacker this season, would you say?
Yeah, he don't really have one.
No, it's Villa.
Oh, Villa. Watkins, probably. I'd say.
Which striker did we choose over Ollie Watkins a couple of years ago?
Neil Maupay.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say on that.
In fairness, though, and I will see the club side on this one, I think they offered him like 85k a week, if I remember rightly, which at the time was mental money for us.
For Watkins?
I don't think we even, yeah.
No, I'm talking about when we signed Maupay, and Watkins was just about to emerge.
Yeah, oh right, yeah, the season before.
Yeah,
because I think Watkins went the season after. Because
he broke out, and because I was
we
saying
all
at the time
wanted
Watkins
him.
is the better player, and everyone was saying, "Oh, you got a Maupay agenda," and
Yeah.
What do you guys think about Mohamed Amoura over the summer? He's the Union striker, 5'6".
Yeah, we can't sign him until September anyway, can we?
Nope, and I have a serious agenda against midgets for this football club.
That's outrageous. I think you just got cancelled, mate. That's what just happened.
No offense, Ryan. Sorry.
Yeah, nice. But yeah, I'm not even going to respond. We can't sign anyone from USG, so it's not even going to happen. Yeah, 6
I'm pretty sure the club wanted Boniface, by the way.
Yeah, I think they did. You're right. Boniface went to Bayer
Leverkusen.
Leverkusen, didn't he?
Yep, won Rookie of the Year in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, he
Had a good
does look
season.
good. Cole Palmer will always haunt us. This is the thing, but this is the one thing you can say is our player recruitment is second to none because all of these players that we now go on and be great, we actually found first. Is that sense of, I don't want to say the phrase that all the fans are saying at the moment, but lack of ambition, Owen, where some deals we could have just got over the line and didn't, and how things could have been so much different, or is that just looking back in the past too much and what could have been?
I mean, it's hard to tell without actually like being in the room and seeing how these conversations unfold. But it
Yeah.
might have been a case of, a certain player doesn't want to join, maybe not because of money, maybe because they want Champions League or they want a release clause or, something that doesn't quite make us comfortable with that deal. And that's fair enough,
Mm.
this is big money on the table.
Do you think
You
that
see some
changes this summer though, of going for it, spending a little bit more, with the new manager in, whoever that's going to be? Um, does that ruthlessness maybe change with a little bit more money in the bank?
if it doesn't, I'm concerned slightly about what's the ambition here. Is it to go
Yeah.
for cheap 18-year-olds, develop them for a couple of years and sell, or is it to build a team and okay, we will sell players, but you know we know we're going to replenish the ranks adequately because last
Yeah.
summer was a blip. But if we have another bad summer,
That's the
that
point.
that that one season we start to become a one season wonder rather than a
Yeah, that's
consistent top.
exactly it. The last season summer was a bad one. We'll look back on that with regret, as we have done all the way through the year in terms of having enough in the squad. But that's what I'm trying to get across when I say my frustrations about De Zerbi, then no McKenna. It's we don't want that to happen again. And if we then bring in Graham Potter, I that's where people will lose faith on the outside because people will look inside and say, how can we then go 2 summers and still think we're going to improve? Don't get me wrong. I actually think, all things considered, we've had still a very decent season. Um, but there's a lot that could have happened that didn't, and it's not that much that would have changed it either.
Sorry, I think I just cut out. Can you repeat like the last 5 seconds?
No, I just said I don't think there's too much that would have changed in terms of last summer, what we needed to do to improve this season. I don't think in the whole grand scheme of everything considered, injuries, players lost, sort of the distractions in the media with managers leaving halfway through the season, Europe more games. We've actually had that bad a season. But it wasn't that much that was required to get better, and we don't want that same sort of problem to happen again next season, because if we fall again, that's back it lower into the bottom half of the Premier League.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe that's part of the decision of parting ways with De Zerbi. You know, perhaps the club thought some things could be handled a lot better by someone else. Maybe De Zerbi
Mm,
was told by people to handle things a certain way and he didn't, because De Zerbi is who he is, and
yeah,
De Zerbi's not a typical Brighton manager if you look at sort of as a person, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the type of people that we usually go for. Chris Hughton, Graham Potter. They're kind of
yeah,
they're a bit more Brighton. De Zerbi was very different, and people loved that. At the same time, I think it could have become a bit tiresome on the board if you're constantly having to listen to every couple of days. Oh, I wanted a winger in January. Like,
yeah. That's it. The fact that it happened over so many months probably was where it started to break down a bit. It was a bit of a, all right, what can we do now? It's over now. But at the same time, as Mike says, you don't want a yes man. You don't want someone that's just going to be there doing whatever someone says. And that's a big part of De Zerbi's charisma, wasn't it? Which everyone fell in love with straight away, was how he was running down the touchline and celebrating. To you, does that matter too much about, having someone that's quite passionate, quite openly, into it, like De Zerbi was? Whereas, how Potter was quite reserved, had actual digs at the fans as well in his time here. For me, I want someone that's going to be a similar mold to De Zerbi in terms of a bit of a fan and gets it on our perspective as well as, managing well.
yeah, I'm gonna join on my phone. My microphone's literally dying. I've plugged it in, so
Okay,
just
all
give me
right,
give me about 1 minute.
no worries. Would I take Eric Roy? Do you know what? Actually, I was looking at this Carlos Corberan on a West Brom stream the other day, but I think if I'm right in saying he's linked to Leicester now, and I think Oscar Garcia is also linked to Leicester, but he does look quite good. Another quite young one, but again, I don't know. We won't get someone as passionate as De Zerbi, but I do want someone with personality. Yeah, I want someone with personality. That's for me. I want someone that's going to be, you know, actually up for it. Because if we then go and lose that, bond with fans that we've sort of had over the last couple of years, I'm not sure. I feel like we lose something if we lose our spirit in that sense. I'm trying to add back in Owen. Bear with me. Here we go. Owen's coming back into the building. But yes, I do agree. Graham Potter interviews, I can't go through the pain again. Yeah, that's the thing. We don't want it to be a situation where we've got someone that's just a bit bland, doesn't really get it. That's what I don't want. That's everything that I don't want, to have to worry about what we say and be a little bit on eggshells, when we say about, the team maybe not performing the best, or, don't shout, shoot, don't boo. Well, not that I booed personally, but all those things were, they added up. And I think that that's what slowly tore the fans away from him. I don't think he ever really had that connection. And I don't want to go back to that sort of thing. I don't want to go back to someone that's going to be quite, that's football, that's life, that's the Premier League, we're Brighton, have a history lesson. Do you agree, Owen? You'd rather have someone that says we're Brighton and we're that's what we are, rather than we're Brighton and we're going to lose games. That's not what we want again.
Is we are Brighton not a little bit of a cursed saying nowadays?
Yeah, I like the Twitter account, to be fair. They make me laugh sometimes.
Yeah, what I'll say is, if it almost felt like De Zerbi was one of us. Like
That's it.
he felt like a fan who was managing almost. Like he understood what the fans wanted. Whereas Potter, it almost felt like he put a wall between himself and the fan base. Like, yeah, sure, you're a manager and you are above us. Like, you're better equipped to make tactical decisions and stuff, but you don't have to point it out so often, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, Marshall said, "Are you looking forward to asking Potter questions?" And actually, this has crossed my mind of how awkward that first press conference would be. Because if he was to ever look at social media, he probably won't really like the messages that was being said about him, particularly when he left for Chelsea. And I think I'd have to just keep the similar sort of energy of, I wouldn't be rude, but I'd have to say, you'd have to address the elephant in the room, wouldn't you? You'd have to say, what do you have to say to the fans? Because you had the opportunity to apologise when you're at Chelsea, and didn't take that opportunity to apologise when you were at Chelsea. And that in itself was a bit of a burnt bridge, in my opinion. I thought that was it. I thought, okay, right, you've had your moment, didn't want to take it, so that's it. So to even be considering speaking to him again, it just seems a little bit too far for me.
What would you ask him, Ryan? If you could ask him one question.
I'd just ask him, how are you going to put it? How are you going to put it right? What's next? I wouldn't dwell on the past, because there's no point dwelling on the past, ever, in any circumstance. But I would just say, what are you going to do to win us back over? Because if it's happened, right? It is what it is. We've got to do with it, and that's it. But you're going to have to do a lot. And by a lot, as I said earlier in the stream, it's getting into a semi-final, final probably, of the FA Cup. It's getting into the Europa League. It's pushing higher than the Europa League. It's aiming higher. It's being with the fans a little bit more. All of these things that I'm saying out loud right now, I can't physically see him actually delivering properly in the way that De Zerbi did. And even if De Zerbi fell short, say, for example, in that first season, I think he would have had a much better reception than probably the one that Potter would have done if it was the other way around, just because of how he was. So that's what I'd say, I think.
Yeah, you can't even blame people for feeling that way, because the personality difference is huge. Like, it's tough to root for someone.
It's part of us now, isn't it? It's part of us now. You've shown us one thing. We don't want to lose that now. Not even when it's a situation where someone's been sacked or bought out. It's through, mutual choice, as mutual as it could be anyway. So it's not like, we've lost something that realistically didn't actually need to go or have to go, but we chose to go. And I think that's where, if you're going to choose to get rid of something, it has to then get better for everyone to believe it. And that starts with the genuine passion, the genuine love, because it does go a long way in football. Look at Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool, for example.
Yeah, getting our own Klopp would be beautiful, wouldn't it? I mean, maybe people start to see De Zerbi as that.
Even an Emery, Emery's hasn't he got some sort of personal ties to Aston Villa? He's quite well thought of there, isn't he? But more to the point, he's a great manager. He's done very well, gets the fans behind him. He gets on with the fans. He signs new long contracts. He's very open with them. I wouldn't want to lose that. I think that's the only thing De Zerbi didn't do, is he didn't shut it down when he had the opportunity to. If anything else, he probably entertained it a little bit too much.
Yeah, I agree. I really think he could and should have done more to sort of put a bit of faith in us almost. It felt like he did want to go and he was waiting for someone to come and get him. That's how I read the press conferences anyway. Maybe you were there, so maybe you interpret it differently because you're hearing it from him.
I mean, I always backed him, didn't I? Because I said I think it's translation. And a lot of it was genuinely translation. A lot of it was he was saying stuff, and like, even if it was, say, for example, I said about Julio, right? And I said Julio's had a great game, blah, 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 blah. He would then start talking about Mitoma. He would then start talking about Facundo. He would go on about a whole other list of players and actually completely miss what my point of the question was, which is fine. I don't speak Italian, so I can't have him go at him for not speaking English. But sometimes when it would come back the other way across, it would be that sort of thing. He would say, okay, I spoke with Tony, I spoke with Bloom, I spoke with Barber, I spoke with the club. And it sounds like he's saying, oh, I had a long conversation, I'm not happy. Because we don't say that in England. We don't say the truth. We don't say how we feel. In general, as people from England, we just don't do that. Whereas De Zerbi probably only really knew how to say how he felt, and in very, very blunt English, because that's all he knew. And I think that came across maybe a little bit too often. But I do agree in the sense of he probably should have stopped some of it. Maybe said, no, I don't want to be involved. But I guess with him, he didn't want to say that because it wasn't true. The last thing he wants to say is, I want to stay here forever and then leave in the summer through choice. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do. Paul Barber, I can't remember where he said it. This was, I think, just after De Zerbi had left. But he said the club didn't mind what he said in the public because he said the same privately. Whereas if he said one thing in public and one thing privately, there perhaps would be an issue, which I found interesting because I would have thought that would have been one of the driving factors towards this mutual sort of separation of ways.
Yeah. I'm going to ask your genuine thoughts as what you want to happen now, because we've gone over what's happened so far. We've gone over what could have happened, what won't change, of course. But what do you want to happen? Like, what for you in this situation, and chat, like, what happens? What do you want now? Is it Potter forgive, Potter trust, or is it someone that you don't know? What do you think?
I'm trying to think about this because this is it's a big question. I don't want Potter by any means. No part of me wants Potter, but it might be a case of, we're not in the best spot. Come back for a year, and we'll go again next summer. As for my sort of ideal scenario, I mean, like, all the top managers I wanted have gone, so we're really down to the bare bones. So I'd probably just say whoever ranks highest on Bloom's, spreadsheet, data, hub, whatever, just go and get them.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much where we're at. I've just got a message, by the way, of a thing posted in North Stand chat 13 minutes ago. And it says from North Stand Raccoon, to be fair, I've just received a text from someone who said the same. And that is that there is a meeting with the club tomorrow for Graham Potter. Apparently the source got recent events right before. Do we trust the North Stand chat post? Owen, yes or no?
If that is true, that would come as a big surprise to me. I think that's where I'll leave that. From people I've spoken to.
I do not trust. North Stand chat's been a mad one today. I haven't actually looked at it, because I don't
saw
really want to.
a Graham Potter De Zerbi sort of face over thing on North Stand chat, which was something.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, I think Jack put it on.
Yeah,
Didn't he?
Jack tweeted it. Yeah.
Yeah, North Stand chat's been wild today. Don't trust. Okay. I'll leave it with the chat. All right, you guys can say what you want. But according to North Stand Raccoon, ladies and gents, Potter has a meeting tomorrow with the club.
Is that actually happening? Though? Wow.
Is it actually happening, or is it not? That's 13 minutes ago as well. That is not just. This is why I've been on stream.
In fairness, if Potter was our main backup, as was reported, why would we be meeting 3 days after that? After McKenna was staying at Ipswich, or 2 days?
Debunking. I like it.
Surely it would have happened already. Do you not think?
Hopefully.
Why would we wait days to meet him? Because he's not got anything better to do.
Yeah, that's fair. Mr. Line said Potter, so we're safe. Yeah, fair enough. We must ask Mr. Line on his sources. Anyone at this point? Yeah, it's difficult. Owen, anything else to mention on this stream before we wrap up? It's been an absolute pleasure as always. We just ran over an hour, so I'm just thinking I've got to get on TalkSport, by the way, if you want to tune in. At 9:15, I'll be joining Flex, the United fan. I can't remember who I'm actually speaking to as well, but there's someone on there speaking in a bit anyway about the Graham Potter situation. Owen, anything else?
Oh, yeah, you put me on the spot again here, haven't you? I'm
very sorry. Is there anything else you want to add?
Let's get chat. Ask some questions. We'll do like how long are you staying for? 5 minutes?
I can stay for another 5-10 if you want. If the chat wants to continue for another 5 minutes, I can. Because I've got gone at 15:15, so I'll probably join the call around 5 past.
All right. So yeah, chat. Get asking questions. We will answer anything. I will answer anything.
Yeah. Owen, you could obviously continue as well. Ryan, who's your dream person to interview? My God. I don't actually know, mate. I don't know. It's been the mad few years. But I think just from this club alone, love to have a sit down, honest chat with Bloom and just try and unmask him a little bit. It won't happen. He's a poker player. He's not going to fold to a Ryan Adset interview, but that'd be quite fun. Danny Welbeck as well. He's got to be up there. I just want to chat to him. It would be fun. Top 3 candidates for managers.
How realistic are we? Are we thinking of just a world of realism? Like it
Poch.
could happen?
I don't know.
I'll go Amorim, Poch, and
Graham.
No. No.
What about the West Brom bloke that we were on about earlier?
I'm not a huge fan of him personally. I think he's a bit overrated by the Tacticos.
Ridgestrom.
I put Russell Martin there, but it's a very reluctant third one.
Yeah, he's not. I don't think he'll come anyway, even if we did ask him. Okay.
Yours?
Mine as well. Amorim would be fun, but the thing is, I'm just looking at it realistically, and I'm like, that won't happen. Amorim would be fun. I want Ridgestrom. I'm not gonna lie. I just want to see some chaos football.
I do have a rogue shout.
Go on then.
What do we think of Beaky? Do you think he could be a
Beaky? Is that guy that's like a Palace fan but not a Palace fan or something like that on Twitter?
Yeah, he's probably one of my favourite accounts.
Right, we'll get through a couple more just because I'm realised the time. Okay. Would you take Steve Bruce? No, of course not. Steve Bruce, my beloved, lovely. This is what the chat's actually saying. Steve Cooper, no chance. Serie A manager for you.
Sorry, what's that? Serie A manager?
Someone said a Serie A manager from Brazil.
Oh, I don't care where they're from.
Don't get
personally.
That one. Up for Wayne Rooney, nice one. Okay, right. The chat's trolling. Are we at any more?
Danny Roll, Marti, Cifuentes, they're good managers, but I think they need another year at their current jobs before they get a step up. Scott Parker, absolutely not.
Thomas Frank, another one in there.
Yeah, Frank would be fine.
You'd take Thomas Frank? What, the cheating, diving football that is at Brentford? You'd have that?
Yeah, why not?
What, we lose 40 minutes of time every time we play football. We're just every single time we play, there's going to be a minimum 10 minutes added on. We may as well sign Mope back if that's the case.
Would you rather that or Graham Potter coming back?
Yeah, Thomas Frank's blue on my army any day. What else we got on there? Brian Hill. Oh my gosh, he's leaving Spurs. Wasn't he? We were speaking about him, weren't we, before? Adam Hinchelwood. That would be quite funny, wouldn't it? Iriola.
I'd love him, but he signed a new deal with Bournemouth. And arguably, they're looking in a better spot than us for next season. I don't think he would make the jump.
They're actually quite good, They're actually quite good.
They're really good. I like their owners. They don't mess around. They see what they like and they just go and pay the money.
Leo manager. I'm not going to try and say his name. Is it Hoeneß?
Oh, he's Stuttgart manager.
Stuttgart.
Problem is he doesn't use wingers there.
That won't happen.
Yeah.
To kill two of our best players would be wrong.
Would Bloom pay for Amorim if we're going all in? I would say yes, we would if the opportunity is there.
Do you think the opportunity is there for Amorim?
I hope so.
It's just a gut feeling.
I mean, if he was open to West Ham, he'd be open
to West Ham. Spoke to Liverpool, didn't he?
And that's location's a big thing for him. That he wanted to live in London.
Yeah. You have to speak to Poch. And do you know what? Poch would just be so funny. Imagine we got one of their managers. That would be quite funny. And do you know what? I actually could do a good job here.
I think Poch would be fine. He's like an 8 out of 10 appointment. I don't think he'd be bad at all. Jose
Mourinho, could you imagine? Mitoma stuff having Potter. Yeah, I do think so, Mike. I do. Although Mitoma's a different player to when Potter was here.
Yeah,
Mitoma's now
he's only just come over, hadn't he?
Yeah, he's one of the best wingers in the league. Oh my God, please not be us. If you see the tweet, breaking, Steve Cooper is under consideration for managerial positions at a number of Premier League clubs.
Was that not read as an agent trying to get his client
could you
more interviews?
Oh, Forest boss looking at a return. Could you imagine? Steve Cooper takes the Championship. Yeah, we'll be more close to the Championship than the Champions League. That's for sure. When only a couple of seasons ago, we were talking about Champions League. What else we got here? Yeah, he is a Championship manager. Imagine what Solly's thinking right now. He must be gutted, particularly not even just talking about Potter, but could you imagine him just thinking about De Zerbi, the player that he was made into, the goals that he was scoring only not even long ago. That's where I'm feeling sorry for some of these players. Obviously, Solly as well has had a horrendous injury.
Yeah, I think part of the worst bit of that would be he never really got to repay him with the faith on the pitch. Like last season he did, but this season he was out for so long. I think he would have been looking forward to getting back and playing under De Zerbi next season. Ange, if leaves Tottenham, would be like number one target for me. I really like Ange Postecoglou.
Yeah, he won't leave Spurs now though. I saw James Maddison talking about him, saying that they like him a lot, believe he's the future. Would you take Ten Hag, Owen? Ten Hag?
If you asked me a month ago, I'd say no. But we are where we are, so probably yes.
But more than Potter is what we're saying.
Yeah.
Pep, imagine. Xavi, I don't see that being at all realistic. I think we've already gone over Xavi. Will still, Owen?
No, not even close to. He is Championship standard at the moment.
Yeah, we'd have so many. Can you imagine the memes as well that come out about us if we sign Will Still? My God. A quid on Ten Hag at 50-1. Good investment there, BHAFC. Josh, right. Are we good to go? Owen, have we said everything?
I think we've covered everything.
I think so as well. I'm just trying to think if there's anything that I've missed. I don't think there is. We're still linking up with Mitoma. That would be quite funny. The amount of memes would be endless.
Chat, is there anything we've missed that we need to talk about quickly?
Yeah, tell me. Because we'll wrap up, and I guarantee you as soon as we wrap up, something will happen. But yeah, catch me on TalkSport. Make sure you go and have a look. When you're back on, whenever you want. Genuinely, we're quite free at the minute. How optimistic are you of next season? Depends on manager, depends on the summer. You, Owen?
7 out of 10 that we'll get a top 10 finish. No, top 8 finish.
See, I said top 6 when De Zerbi was still there, but here we are. Right. Anyways, we'll leave it there. Thank you for joining us, of course.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, Owen. Top man. Follow Owen DHAFC on his socials. Of course, follow TalkSeagulls and myself if you want to. And we'll catch you very, very soon. And goodbye.